and welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. I'm your host Jen, and I'm very excited to talk about today's episode. But before we begin, there will be spoilers as we talk about major events that unfold within the story. In addition, each episode will have a list of trigger warnings in the description. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast, and show your support on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. And welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop, and today we are joined here with Charlotte.
Hello.
Yay!
I'm back.
You're back. And we're doing something a little bit different.
A little different.
Yeah, we're diving into some fantasy books.
Which is unusual for me.
I'm very excited.
If you've listened to any of my previous episodes.
What book did you bring, and why did you bring this book?
So the book we have today is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I brought it because Jen suggested I read it, and I was like, okay. And I did, and I'm obsessed with it, so we had to discuss it. It is taking over TikTok, Instagram, book groups on Facebook. Everyone's talking about it.
Book talk, all this stuff.
Book talk, yeah.
But yeah, so let's hop into it. We're going to start out with a little game.
Oh boy. We're starting with a game.
You are going to summarize this book in 30 seconds.
Oh gosh.
Try your best, and you may begin whenever you're ready.
Fourth Wing is about a 20-year-old girl who has been studying her entire life to be a scribe writer, which is like the historian for their country. But her mom, who is the general of this entire college that these kids are going to, has decided her daughter is going to be a dragon rider, which means she's going to be put through extreme tests of strength and agility. The only thing that's holding her back in her mind is that she has Ehlers-Danlos, I think it's called, which is a joint and muscle disease. With that, she defies all odds. She makes it through her training camp. She also meets a love interest and a lot of dragons along the way.
Yay! We are going to talk about this book for probably a while. It's going to be a very lengthy episode, but honestly, we're going to barely scrape the surface of what this book is. This book is so rich with just energy and character development and world building. All of it is so like gigantic compared to like what we're going to talk about in this podcast. So make sure you read the book. Obviously, don't listen to this podcast if you haven't read the book, because we are going to spoil everything.
Literally everything.
Yeah, everything.
And it will ruin it if you haven't read it and plan to.
Absolutely. Especially when we get towards the ending of the book, which is like a huge thing. Like, don't listen to this episode if you haven't read the book. Go somewhere else. Sorry.
Go listen to the Twilight one. That's a good one.
Ooh. All right, so I'm going to summarize this book really quick for anybody who hasn't heard of this book. 20-year-old Violet Sorrengail was supposed to enter the Scribe Quadrant, living a peaceful life among books and history. Now, the commanding general, also known as her toughest Talon's mother, has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of cadets striving to become a dragon rider. With fewer dragons willing to bond, the most would kill Violet to better their chances of success. The rest would kill her just because she's her mother's daughter. Like Xaden Riderson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Rider's Quadrant. Yet, with every day that passes, war outside grows more deadly. The kingdom's protective wards are failing, and death tolls continue to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Friends, enemies, lovers. Everyone at Basgiath War College has an agenda, because once you enter, there are only two ways out. Graduate or die. Dun dun dun.
It's such a dramatic little blurb.
I know. It's just from the book itself, but
yeah, it really sets the tone.
Heck yeah. So, yeah, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book came out in May of this year, and this is the first book of, she says, is a 5-book series, and we have Iron Flame coming out November 7th, which is just crazy, having a book with the first book coming out and then the second book coming out so fast.
Well, so when I was watching some of her TikToks, it sounded like her publishing company wanted to do a fantasy series and start and do a release. And she normally was writing romantic books. Mm-hmm. And she wanted the challenge. She wanted to kind of like try out fantasy. And so she gave them like a manuscript type of thing for Fourth Wing. They were obsessed with it and they loved it. And so they were like, you're going to do our series. Like, this is going to be the schedule of timeline. So by the time she was done with Fourth Wing, she was already mapping out Iron Flame, I'm pretty sure. And I think that was just kind of how it went. So she knew what she was doing. So I think that's why it's able to come out so fast. Because otherwise, I don't think she probably would have had it figured out that way.
Yeah, which is smart because if you don't know Fourth Wing, I would be very surprised, especially if you are into reading and stuff, because Fourth Wing overtook my TikTok within a night. I saw one video before I fell asleep. I woke up, everything was Fourth Wing. And I was like, I really like dragons. And people were comparing this book to like a Hunger Games Divergent dystopian mixed with How to Train Your Dragon, which I love. And I was just like, okay, I'm in, let's go. I don't normally say that books are worth the hype, but this book is worth the hype that it gets.
I felt like it was definitely worth the hype. And I think it kind of depends on personal preference and the type of reading that you do. For as much hype as I've seen, I've also seen just as many people tearing it down.
Absolutely.
And I think it kind of just depends on what your standards are for a book, because not that this is anything against Rebecca, but like I have very low standards when I go into books because for the most part I'm never usually that impressed. How Rebecca did it was really well done, which is why I was like, yes, this totally deserves the hype. This is unlike anything I've read. I thought it did deserve the hype, but I'm also not looking for like the next Shakespeare or something like that. Like I think I have reasonable standards and other people, not that their standards are wrong or anything, they just have a different perspective and they're expecting some a masterpiece. And it's like, nothing's really going to be perfect, especially now.
Literature and books are very much like, it's an art, and art is subjective. So something that I can absolutely adore, you're not going to like. And that's completely fine, but you shouldn't push down or make fun of somebody else's like just because you didn't like it. But yeah, no, I think that this book is going to definitely change the perspective of like, because this is considered a new adult. Not young adult, not adult. It's like new adult.
I've never heard of new adult until this book came up because I was like, it's either young adult or it's adult. And I always thought young adult was an adult book, but just geared more towards, they're not quite in high school anymore, but they're also not in their 40s having a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
I've never heard new adult, but I think it does fit.
Yeah, no, like this book, I definitely wouldn't recommend. Like, I feel like there's a lot of adult aspects in it that maybe super young kids shouldn't be reading.
I think this book would be totally fine for like a high schooler or even maybe like 8th grade, that sort of thing, except for the spice. Like, I think the concept of it is fine for them. Because, like, I mean, Hunger Games, that was about kids brutally murdering other kids. So I think this would be fitting for that, especially because Hunger Games was a required reading when I was in school.
Really?
It was. It was our advanced English in 8th grade. So I think it kind of depends. Like for high schoolers, maybe if their parents allow them to explore that type of content, because it's not like the sex in Fourth Wing is super graphic or that descriptive. Like it paints a picture for sure, but it's not like disgusting. So
not like raunchy.
Yeah, it's raunchy. That's a very good word.
Yeah.
But in some of the book groups I'm in, I've seen teachers talk about how they would see kids carrying around 50 Shades of Grey.
God.
I know. I was like, well, that's interesting. I feel like as a school, they should be like, hey, maybe we don't bring this to school. What you do at home is your business, but maybe don't bring that to class. I feel like schools should maybe set a precedent, but I don't think Fourth Wing is graphic enough that a high schooler couldn't handle it. I think it just depends on the kid, and parents know their kids.
Yeah. Yeah, let's hop into it. Let's do our favorite quotes. So one of my favorite quotes is, sometimes it's hard for a writer with a signet that powerful to accept his limits. After all, bonding makes you a writer, but resurrecting someone from the dead, now that makes you a god. I really like that.
That is a good one.
I think this line is going to be extremely important for the whole series in total, and we'll get into everything. Don't worry. But I think it's going to make a comeback in the next ones too, because I think I have a few theories that we're going to shoot back and forth later on. But there's going to be a point where somebody dies and something's going to be resurrected back.
I could see that. I mean, more than it already has.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like that line because again, like accepting your limits, knowing that there is an end to your power. These people are still human; they're still mortal. They're not above the dragons in any sort of way, even though they feel like they are with their signets.
That has played a role in things that have already happened and are to come. Kind of was a foreshadowing.
Yeah,
for now.
What quote did you bring?
It comes from, I believe, Xaden. And him and Violet are arguing towards the end of the book. And he tells Violet, "Did you ever once stop to think that sometimes you can start out on the right side of a war and end up on the wrong one?" I felt that was very important because I think that sets up for the rest of the series, for one. It also kind of shows that, like, you can think you know everything, that you're doing what's right to the best of your knowledge, but eventually you're going to realize maybe you're fighting the wrong battles and you're not looking at the bigger picture because you're so focused on one thing. And that's why it's important, even with people you might not agree with or get along with or understand, but trying to see their point of view and take in the bigger picture, you might realize that you're fighting the wrong battle.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that plays a huge role into the ending of the book, is setting up for the rest of the series.
Absolutely. That's actually my other quote.
Oh my gosh, I knew it. I was writing this down and I was like, oh man, I think that she's probably going to have this because it's so point on and it's just so good.
Yeah, I absolutely love that line. I think it is a little bit of foreshadowing as well. I love the homage to like blind loyalty and how Violet and pretty much everybody, the country, blindly follows the government there, and it's almost like required of them to do such. I really like the, not seeing what's right in front of you, in that everything has two sides to a story. Someone else always has a different perspective than you do. And a lot of the times that when you don't see the whole picture, you don't really think about the other side because you're just trying to figure out your own. And I feel like that's where Violet is. She's now having her entire world like scattered around, and she has no clue what's going on. So now she has to, I think in the next books, really be perceptive and learn about things along the way while still having that premeditated idea of her future, her past, and how it's affected her life. And then being like, well, I need to open myself up to all the new possibilities.
Right.
And I'm really excited to see how she goes forth, because it seemed like she wanted to not accept it, but go along with it to learn. But she was so held back by Xaden and Karen and Darna lying to her that it was pushing her back from seeing, because she's so smart. She's so intelligent. It's going to kill her when she finds out that all of this stuff is happening right before her eyes and she wasn't perceptive enough to see it. She's going to hate that. But I'm really excited to see with like maybe Xaden off to the side so she can have a clear view on what's going on, how she changes it within her own mind.
I can agree that I think she's definitely going to be really mad when she realizes that for as smart as she is, she missed all of the signs pointing to essentially her mom, who's the general, being in the wrong on a lot of things. I mean, the entire point of their war college, especially the Rider's Quadrant, is the blind loyalty to the government and to the country.
Yeah.
That's kind of similar with even in real life. You have to have that loyalty that no matter what, you're defending your homeland for whatever reason. Whether you agree or not in your personal life, you have to now defend them. Yeah. And so Violet has always felt that way, even when she was training to be a scribe, because she was recording the history. And so she figured she knew everything that was happening, especially with her mom and her dad telling her what was happening and how to record it. And, she had access to the vault of information, all the archives. So she knew whatever she wanted to know. But then for her to kind of stop and realize that it was backwards, she only knew what the government wanted them to know. She may be on the wrong side. and that the rebellion may have had a point.
Yeah.
So for her to realize that, I think is going to turn her world upside down. And regardless of how she feels about Xaden at the end of this book, she's going to have to take the space from him and from everyone else to kind of figure out where she lies on the line. Does she believe her mother? Does she believe Xaden? Does she think they're both full of shit? Like, you know, she kind of has to figure out where she lies now, which is going to be hard being a writer. Going to get to a point where the entire college falls apart.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it feels very Hunger Games and a little Harry Potter. Is this whole war college they have figured out is going to just crumble, and it's going to be a free-for-all, and it's going to be this huge battle.
Yeah. Violet having her brother back. Spoiler! Oh my god, I'm so sorry! Okay, yeah. Okay, we're going to spoil stuff. That's already been said and done. With her brother back, that is going to drastically change so much stuff, because a lot of the common animosity between her and them is that your dad killed my brother?
Yeah, it was supposedly Xaden's dad killed Violet's brother, which led me to, was my other quote was, "Welcome to the Revolution, Violet," which was spoken by Brennan. Spoiler! But the one thing about Xaden is I never realized, he always said that must be hard with the loss of your brother, never like the death of your brother.
Yeah.
And he always spoke about his father as being deceased. So Xaden knew, obviously, Brennan was alive.
Right.
I don't know if this plays into what we were just talking about, but that was where my mind went.
I have one more quote that tied in with your quote. Taryn said, "One generation to change the text, one generation to choose to teach that text. The next one grows and the lies become history." All the lies coming to the surface and we're finding out about it. And like the story of the fables, which I think is going to play a huge part in the next couple of books, especially with the venom and the wyverns and stuff. It's just really important, and I'm just like really, really excited to see where it goes.
I think it's very interesting that Violet's older sister, Mira, let Violet keep one book, and it was the Book of Fables from their father. Because
is that the book that she let her take across the parapet?
I'm pretty sure.
I thought that was the book that she gave her when they went to
Oh, is that
Nazareth
when they went to visit? I think you're right. I think I kind of remember her being like, "Get rid of this book from Dad."
Yeah, she did get it, because that's when she opened up the back panel and she found the letter from her dad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right.
Montserrat,
She didn't.
yeah.
Yep. Montserrat.
We're gonna butcher the names. Get used to it, because we're bad. So Charlotte, what are some things that you liked about this book?
So I enjoyed that there were consistently plot twists from Rebecca throughout this book. Even when you thought you had an idea of what was coming, maybe it was partially true or not true at all, because she kind of would twist everything, which made it one of those books where you had to keep reading. Like, it was an addictive read. So I felt like that was really good, because sometimes people just do like that one big plot twist and they're like, "Oh, whoa, that's so crazy." But like Rebecca did a bunch of little ones that led to a major plot twist.
Yeah.
And I felt that was really smart, because it made it seem more interesting as you were reading it. And then how everything connects. Little things that we heard about in the beginning ended up being something important later. Learning about what Violet's mom does as a signet power, and then learning later sets off that light bulb, like, hey, her mom controls the weather, and then Violet had really bad weather trying to get across the parapet, which was like essentially airborne balance beam and in a huge rainstorm with lightning, ironic, and the thunder and the slippery and everything like that. So like that was something that connected later. Rebecca, I think she does a very good job giving Xaden depth to his character, because I feel like a lot of times when you have one, the love interest, but also like bully, bad boy or whatever character, they don't get a lot of depth until much later when it seems more important to like make them likable. But Xaden was given a depth throughout, and we never really knew why, I feel like. It was just kind of like she built his character throughout the story, which was much more satisfying in the ending and made him more likable from the jump. Even though I didn't necessarily like him from the jump, I didn't trust him at all.
Yeah.
But I thought it was good that he had character development, and there were some characters who didn't. Like, I don't feel like Dane had a lot of character development throughout the story, even though we ran into him a lot. And Violet, of course, had a lot of character development throughout the entire story. But I felt like her spice scenes were done well. I didn't think they were graphic and raunchy and done in like a gross way. It was more dignified, and it painted the picture without making you feel squeamish if that's not your specific forte. Because I don't usually like read books specifically for smut. They just happen to be in that book.
Yeah.
Because of like the genre. But I felt like her writing the scenes between Xaden and Violet, spoiler.
Yes. I think with the smut scenes is that it was all about connection. It was about Violet feeling something to forget. It wasn't just their chemistry. It was also something else going on that obviously their chemistry has a part in it, but it wasn't just them chasing each other. It was like a connection that she was actually feeling and how they played off of each other. Obviously, they are bonded with their dragons, so their feelings and their expressions of that is enhanced a lot. Yeah, it doesn't come out of the blue. You can see that there is a very significant lead up to it. So it's not like oh my god, now they're in each other's bed. Like, it's not anything like that.
Yes. I would be interested to know, well, I guess I kind of do know, that with Violet specifically being on the weaker end of that dragon bonding, because when Xaden and Violet's dragons are having their intimate moments is when the emotions that the dragons feel run really strongly through Xaden and Violet just because of those bonds. But she knew she had this like sudden wave of emotions, and Liam was there because this was the first time it happened to her. And so Liam was there, and she's like, Liam, you gotta go. Like, you must leave. And so she knew that, like, even though she had those strong feelings pulled toward making out with someone or whatever the case may be, she knew she didn't want it to be Liam. Yeah. And when she did find Xaden, she really wanted it to be him. In that scene, when they did finally make out, Xaden and Violet, she was trying to tell him that, like, she genuinely did want him, but he wouldn't listen to her.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to make sure that his feelings were not just because of his dragon or whatever. He wanted to make sure he really felt that way about Violet. But I think he already knew he did.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not going to take advantage of you because these feelings are not yours. And stuff like that. Like, you are not in a position. This was the first time she ever, like, channeled her emotion through. So he's like, I'm not taking advantage of you. So you need to hightail it away. Yes. And I'm going to go jump off the parapet. Bye.
Basically, he's like, I would rather jump off this parapet than have to deal with this. Because there was something where he said specifically something to the effect of, like, you don't want this. But he never said he didn't. Which I was like, Violet, are you listening? He said you don't, but he never said he didn't.
Do you have any other likes?
Oh, I liked that when Xaden was with Violet as, like, more coupley, he was with her. He had no shame about being with her, knowing what it meant and, like, how it appeared to look to the outsiders, because he was a rebel and she was the general's daughter. Like, from an outsider's perspective, that seems like for both of them, each other were off limits.
Especially because he was a wing leader and she was a cadet.
Yes, the authority situation they had going. When he was with her, he was all about it and not ashamed at all, which is really great, because sometimes it's like usually those people have to warm up to the idea. And Violet was a little hesitant just because she didn't want him to look bad and she didn't want it to look bad on her. But I think he made her comfortable, because it's like, who cares? It's not like she's really benefiting from it a lot, especially later. It doesn't benefit her at all. So I thought that was really nice of him.
Well, that's so nice of him.
He's doing the bare. So he's doing the bare minimum. Isn't that so nice? It was just kind of telling of his character in a way that he isn't gonna hide someone just because of appearances. He's not worried what other people think.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed how it just hops right into it. You don't get a whole background. It's just you hop right into it. I am 100% convinced you have to read this book at least 3 or 4 times to pick up at least half of the stuff.
Yes.
I read it the first time and everything just went right over my head. And then I was rereading it and oh my gosh, it's so more in depth and there's so much more that is here that I missed the first time. And I'll just tell you right now, spoiler alert, Liam's death rocked me to my core
gosh,
the second
I think
time.
about this every time.
Yeah, I sobbed the second time. I didn't cry the first time because it didn't hit me.
I'm definitely teared up the first time. When it happens, you're so close to the end of the book. You kind of want to like just keep going because I was like, I want to finish. I want to know how this ends. Like I want to get to the good stuff.
I really enjoy, this is just kind of like a general thing for books. I really like books that show instead of tell. I think that is extremely important, and I really like this because you, like I said, you could read over it and glaze over so much information because it doesn't seem important at the time, but information is so easily missed that if you're not paying attention, you won't remember it, because she does it so well with showing you what's happening and not just being like, that's really important. Like the dagger in her mother's office. She was like, oh, it's just a letter opener. But later you find out it's much more than that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like those little things that you have to really dissect in this book, and I really like that. It's like a mystery.
We were a little bit like Scooby-Doo and the gang, trying to put it all together.
I like that it doesn't hover over stuff either. Like, it's one and done sometimes, where she says something and it's just gone the next, and then it doesn't come up until the end of the book, which I think is interesting to put in. Talking about the dragons. We haven't talked about them at all.
I know. Does anyone know how to talk about them? Because I can't say their names.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed the idea that the dragons can live on, but the humans can't.
I know.
Which is sad, but...
It's so sad for Liam.
But no, I think that's a really smart idea, narrative-wise, because it leaves open a lot of possibilities, as well as just shows how powerful the dragons are.
Yes, and how little the humans really matter, because it's kind of like, it's the dragons' world, and they're living in it. Because the dragons allow... they choose who they're going to bond to, and they choose if they are going to care enough to save their human or not. They choose if they're going to power their signet through them. As hard as it is, I think it makes more sense that the dragons are huge and powerful, and that should a human die, we'd run out of dragons, because these dumb humans are dying all the time. And
especially in the school.
Especially at this school. So I think it makes more sense that way, even as heartbreaking as it is.
Yeah, I just think it's so funny that the dragons are the pretty much the leaders of this world. They decide who they want to kill. They decide who lives. They could probably go right up to Mira and just kill her, and there's absolutely nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
But I do like that there is a balance, that the riders need dragons as much as the dragons need the riders. Okay, maybe not as much, but they need them as well.
Yeah, because it does affect the dragons when their human dies. Jack. When he died, his dragon took a hit, but it wasn't the end of the line for the dragon. The dragon would go on, though Jack did not. Not sorry. Bye, Jack. No one liked you. Yeah.
And then they need the riders for a specific reason, or else they wouldn't have riders. Like, there's reasons that the riders are a part of their world, too. Which I really like that. I really enjoyed that the tails of the dragons were intersected into their personality, I guess. And, it determined their temperament as well. Just like dogs. Like, when you're like, I have a Chihuahua, and you know that's a beast. And then you have, a freaking Great Dane, and you know that's a gentle giant. Same thing with dragons. You have a dagger tail, they're more docile than, a Morningstar tail.
Yeah, because I feel like it's hard to probably give a ton of personality traits on appearances to dragons when they're big and they're scaly and they're colored. Yeah. But it's how do you kind of give them a little extra depth as far as what they are like? Yeah. So I think the tails is a good one combined with the colors. I think it'd be fun if there was a color-changing dragon. Kind of like a Uno wild card.
Ooh, like a chameleon type.
Yeah, or a chameleon, I guess. Uno card, chameleon, same thing.
It only gives you 4 colors.
Well, there's only so many types of dragons.
That we know.
This is true. This is true. We're only in book 1, so we can't act like we're experts.
Okay, just a couple more likes here. I really enjoyed Violet. We're going to talk about all of Violet's character development later, but just grazing over it, I really enjoyed her narrative. I think she was very personable, and she felt human.
Constantly brought back down to reality. Yeah. No matter how high on her dragon she feels.
Yeah.
She's consistently snapped back to reality. Like, oh yeah, I kind of can't just like throw my joints out like that. It will take me 10 to 6 business weeks to recover.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really liked the narrative of this book. It felt like being in her head. I'm a huge supporter of third person writing, but I'm really glad this was written in first person.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, and she did a really good job on it. So I really enjoyed that. I really liked the LGBT representation.
Yeah.
And how it literally just glazes over it. It never labels anybody with a sexuality.
Yes.
At first, the first time I read it, I never realized that Ree and Ryduck were both, like, a bisexual until I was rereading it, and then they labeled that they were both with man and woman. And I was like, slay!
I know. Well, from the beginning, when we first met Ree, when she was with Tara, I was like, they never really went into their relationship at all. It was just kind of like, oh, Ree's with Tara and that sort of thing. They never really said that they were together in a romantic way, but I kind of was given the suspicion that maybe they were, but I was like, it doesn't really matter for the course of the story. And then later we find out, it was like, oh, they were on again, off again, now they're off, and Ree's exploring this with somebody, and then she hooks up with some guy, I think. She hooks up with Rydick?
Yeah.
I've been saying Rydock, but I think it's supposed to be Riddick.
Oh, it might be Riddick, yeah.
But I don't really care. I like my pronunciations. I can't wait to tell you all my other pronunciations.
Yeah. So you're going to be named Rydock now.
That's his name.
My last one is just, in all caps, I have Jacenia. I adored her. I love that she was deaf, which is a bad thing to say, I'm sorry. But I love the representation.
I did appreciate diversity, whether it was sexuality or abilities and that sort of thing. Let me just say, though, I thought they didn't speak. And, like, Jacenia didn't speak because she was in the archives, and that was, like, a quiet place, and you weren't supposed to make noise. So I didn't realize she was deaf until I listened to another podcast discuss her, and I was like, wait, what?
It makes sense, though.
I was like, oh, I thought just all the scribes communicated that way.
I really liked the sign language.
Yes.
I liked that it was, again, another thing that was just mentioned. She never, ever says that Jacenia is deaf. But yeah.
Hence my confusion.
You just kind of have to pick up the context clues. And I love that Liam knew how to sign too, which was so
Liam is such a golden retriever, and I love him.
I love him so much. We'll talk about a lot of him, I'm sure. But no, I absolutely loved that representation because you don't see it very often in any kind of media. So the very last thing I have is I really, really, really enjoyed the powers. I think it heightened the story up so much. I love how in-depth they are. I love how even if you don't show a power, you can die. Like, how it like overtakes your body.
Intense.
I love that there's like laws in place for them as well, especially the mind reading one, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yes.
But I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I think it was really well thought out, and she did a good job on it.
The powers, as far as like, if it doesn't come through, then you die. That is an interesting aspect because it's like no matter how much you train, how prepared you are, how dedicated, it still may not be the quadrant for you. And that is a fatal error. So it's like if you think too highly of yourself and then you end up wrong, that's the end for you. And that's like a very scary thing. So it just goes to show how dedicated these people are to serving as a rider.
Even Liam, who was top of the class, always the best fighter, the best person there, dies.
And I do think Liam's death was not a matter of him being not careful. I think that really came from the betrayal of other authority figures. Like, what was Dane's dad? What is he?
He's a commander.
Is that higher than a general? I don't know anything.
No, a general's definitely higher. I think he was like under her mom, but like in a a seductive way. What if?
Did we just have a breakthrough?
What if?
Hold on.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Wait.
Oh my god.
Hold on. So, like, maybe her mom and Dane's dad were a thing because, as we all know from the very beginning, Violet's dad dies supposedly of a heart attack. I don't know if I believe that.
It definitely didn't happen.
What if Dane's dad killed him so he could be with the general? But she's like, this is a bad look. So she, maybe she's like, there's like too much power at play. Like, we can't do that. And then her dad died for nothing. But maybe also she wanted... Okay, I have a theory about her mom and dad, but...
Okay.
Guys, we just had a breakthrough here.
Rebecca.
Hold up.
Rewrite Iron Flame. Put that in there.
Well, first and foremost...
For your dislikes?
Yes. Let's get this one out of the way. Dane's a little bitch. Because you know what? How weak do you have to be to betray supposedly the girl you're in love with, which I thought was a sham from the beginning, even though Violet had a huge crush on him growing up and stuff, because they grew up together because of their parents' jobs, which, interesting.
Oh, we have a theory about that.
But, like, everything about Dane, I just wasn't really feeling him from the beginning, and I couldn't really figure it out. To learn then that Dane's power is, one, a secret, and two, learning how he does it. So Dane's power is that he can read or view or learn people's memories by touching their face. There are many times where Dane is touching Violet in some capacity, and so we learn later that Dane is betraying Violet's trust in him as a friend, and he's not a wing leader. What is he? He's a squad leader?
He's like the squad leader, and then Xaden's above him.
Well.
In a seductive way. What? Oh, God.
Oh, my goodness.
Dane it's funny because he sucks. He just sucks. He's the Gale of this book, okay? Like, he is a prime example of the talents that this world has on everybody because, again, he has a mind-reading ability. You're not allowed to have that. Any sort of mind-reading abilities in this world. But because Dane's power is secretive, he's able to live because he's so manipulated by the world. Xaden's like, would you let her die for the Codex? And Dane's like, yeah.
Yes.
Obviously.
So the Codex is their book of rules that all the riders have to follow. And Dane is the number one rule follower. Mm-hmm. So when he's posed with the question of, like, would you let this girl you love and your best friend from your childhood and everything that you've been trying to protect this entire book, would you let her die because letting her live would break a rule? And he's like, well, yeah, she has to die because I can't break the rules. Mm-hmm. And he kind of is breaking a rule with having the mind reading thing, but he's been told that it's okay because with the other mind reading signet that people get, it's like they can't control the secrets. So, like, they're reading people's minds, but they are just speaking it. They can't control it at all. They can't stop themselves. Whereas Dane, he can't just, like, look at someone or talk to someone and know what their memories are. Mm-hmm. But if he touches them, then he can find out their memories. Which I want to know more about how his works, because there have been times where he had touched Violet's face and didn't know that she was with Xaden in a romantic way. But yet he knew all about Xaden's betrayal. So it's like, does he control what memories he's looking at?
It could be a lot of, like, Taryn could have been helping at that point. I don't know. Because it doesn't really go into Dane much at all.
So I think we're going to get a big Dane story in the next one, probably. Yeah. Yeah, with the mind control that you were saying, because we do see Jeremy, one of the cadets, get a mind control ability, and he instantly gets killed because he is just spewing out this stuff. He almost reads, was it Garrick's mind that he was reading, or Bodhi's mind? I don't know whose mind he was reading, but Xaden comes in and is like, Violet, start reciting anything from a book you've read lately. And she's like, she didn't get it. And he's like, no, just do it. So she's like trying to find something. And then Carr just like, the signet professor or whatever, the signet wielding professor comes in and just snaps his neck and is like, all right, well, that's Wednesday, guys. Get on with it. But I really liked the scene. We're going on a complete tangent, but I really liked the scene where Violet asks him, why did you do that to Jeremy? Why did you not give him a chance to learn his signet? And Carr simply just says, knowledge is power. That's it. And I'm just like, if that doesn't tell you all about this government,
Yeah.
Like, knowing what we know now, that was a very key quote, that knowledge is power. And so Violet did have a lot of knowledge, so she had a lot of ability and the power to, like, keep herself alive, like with the poison book, that sort of thing, using her competitors' weaknesses against them in a different way. If they had the full knowledge of what was going on behind the general's doors, then yeah, they may have had, like, another rebellion happen, because these kids are going to realize, like, not everything is what it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, so Dane, he gets a free pass, but he's on thin ice. That's for sure, with his power. Any other dislikes?
Her mom. But that's because... that's just a general thing. I think her mom could have done a little more to ease Violet into, if she obviously knew she was sending Violet to the Rider School, like, she could have at least given her a little prep, because Violet seemed like she was very submissive to her mother, in the sense that, like, if her mother said, this is what's going to happen, Violet would have been like, okay, you jump how high? So it wasn't until Mira came along and was, like, arguing with her mother, because Violet was just, you know, she had already packed up. She was already ready to go. It was like, Mom said it, so it must be true. So I think, like, if her mom had given her a little heads up, she maybe could have prepared herself a little better. But I think at the same time, if Violet knew, she may have gone with a different plan of, like, trying to run away or something like that, because Dane offered her to run away so many times.
Yeah. Melgren? Mm-hmm. He's, like, the highest above the highest. He has the ability to predict outcomes of battles. And I was reading that one of the theories is that he predicted a very big battle where Violet was part of it, and he pushed General Sorengale, to push Violet into this quadrant. I really like that theory, because it's like, it makes sense, and that's why her mother was, like, pushing again and again and again to get her to go, is because they already know the outcome of a big battle.
That's true.
So
maybe her mom didn't want to send her. See, because I kind of thought, like, her mom was pushing her to go because she, like Xaden, her mom saw what Violet's capable of, and, like, she was putting more belief in her daughter than most people probably would. You know, and, like, even her sister was like, Violet will literally die if you send her. Like, she can't do it. She's too weak. She wouldn't say weak because she didn't want to make Violet feel bad, but that's what she meant. I just kind of always thought, like, her mom believed in her more than anyone else did. But that is an interesting theory. And so if Violet's a part of it, but if he could see that Violet was a part of that battle, wouldn't he know what side she was on? And then maybe but I guess he can't interfere, though.
Yeah, he can only predict the outcome of the battle.
He can't interfere.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I think her mother isn't as much of an antagonist as we're led to believe. I think that she's definitely a facing person of it. But I think there's someone behind her pulling the strings. Like a little puppeteer.
Maybe.
That her mother is the face of the antagonist, but she's not the main antagonist.
Interesting. Now there's like some... yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Because, I mean, Dane's dad could be part of it, or Melgren could be part of it.
So, some of my dislikes...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is this an inconvenience? So, I didn't love the parapet, the lore dump that it is. Obviously, it makes sense. It was just so much all at once.
Oh, what she was talking about while crossing? Honestly, I feel like that was one of those things, when I reread it, I'll take it in more, but to read it the first time, I was kind of like, I don't really know what this means to me, so I'm just going to glaze through.
Over it, I think it's funny to make her do, like, a little nerdy, like, whenever something bad's happened or she's, like, stressed out, she recites that. I think that's funny. Also, speaking of the parapet scene, I didn't realize until my second read-through how intense that scene is with her going across. It's pretty much tight-roping the height of the freaking Eiffel Tower. Like, it's not that high, but it's pretty high.
It's probably that high.
And with only one good shoe on, and it's windy, and some crazy person's chasing you from behind trying to kill you.
It's windy, it's storming, and you're being chased by a psychopath. You only have one shoe with footing on it because she traded one shoe with Rhiannon. I felt the intensity at the beginning, and I think the point of her kind of using her information as a stress reliever was to give some world building and background without having to give us chapters and paragraphs of like, so this is how our government works. This is an exact diagram in words of how our country is set up. Because to me, that's not the kind of world building I enjoy. And I know a lot of people's beef with Fourth Wing was there wasn't enough world building. And I'm like, to be honest, I think it worked out better this way because it keeps those people who may not be super into fantasy yet hooked, because you're getting the knowledge of what is happening and how their world works without having to sit through a full 20-page chapter of the codex or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that was a smart way to do it.
It was just a lot. Parapet scene already being so intense, and then having this like lower dump between it. That was what really was throwing me off. I wish we would have got it with her like coming up the stairs or something. Yeah. Or we had like a less intense section, because it also broke up the intensity of the parapet. With the world building, I think the world building was fine. I just had a hard time like understanding the lands itself and like where the battles were, because they mentioned a lot of battles when she's like in battle briefing. And I kept flipping back to the map, and this map is just really hard to read. And I was like, I don't know where any of these places are.
Yeah.
Also, didn't know that there was a freaking map for, flipping pages.
The college,
yeah. I didn't even notice that, because it's inside of the pages. So
and honestly, this college map didn't help me a ton.
No.
But all it told me was that, man, they have to do a ton of walking.
Yeah.
Where the Rider's Quadrant is in comparison to her job having to go to the scribe archives, good lord, they have to go over this crazy bridge, or do they go underground? I forget how it goes.
Very hard to imagine. I'm glad we got the maps, but I don't think they were that helpful.
It's helpful to an extent, because I kind of could see where they had to go from where they normally are. But for the most part, I just was making up stuff in my head. I was like, this is what it looks like, and this is where it is, and maps be darned.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing I didn't love was the gauntlet scenes. I'm sorry, but it was literally just Wipeout.
I see comments and everyone's like, this is basically American Ninja Warrior. And I was like, you know what? It is.
It is, yeah.
They have the little, ramp thing you have to climb and all this other stuff, and, things are moving. So, yeah.
It makes complete sense why they have it. Because, again, preparing them to be able to mount and ride a dragon. It makes complete sense. I like that. Just visualizing was really hard.
I know. I'm just imagining, this straight cliff. Mm-hmm. That part was really hard to visualize.
Yes, yeah.
The parapet, I'm like, yeah, this is a stone balance beam out in the wind. But the gauntlet, I can see why everyone just compares it to American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, I'm excited because obviously this book has to get a movie adaptation.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm convinced that we're already working on which studio's gonna get it, who's gonna play who.
Yeah.
Which leads into one of my other things when we get there. But.
Okay. But I think it would be much better as a visual. Your one thing is that I'm sick of people making Xaden white?
No.
Because I'm sick of it, okay?
Okay, so my thing, it's in relation to that, but not specifically. I have been teasing Jen for the longest time about this ridiculous thought I had. So I did not, clearly, as I didn't pick up on Josinia being deaf and other things, I didn't really pick up or remember anyone describing Xaden's appearance except for how hot he was in that battle with Garrick. Clearly, I'm not really picking up on these appearance context clues, because I know we were discussing how we thought Violet's mom kind of was like Jane Lynch in...
Yeah.
It was like
Wreck-It Ralph.
Yes, Wreck-It Ralph, Jane Lynch. I didn't even read Xaden's description or think, and so in my head, I am envisioning Xaden, which is so funny because he's supposed to be hot. No.
Oh, sorry.
But
that's what I envisioned.
No. Because he was a bully and annoying or whatever, so I was just like, oh, who's annoying and a bully?
Don't say who I think you're about to say.
It's
I already
the
know
older brother from Home Alone.
Okay, never mind.
No, from the from Lost in New York. That specific, I'm thinking of Buzz, and I have no idea why. Yes.
I thought you were going to say Nate Jacob from Euphoria.
Okay, so I haven't seen Euphoria.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
Yeah, so
they definitely label Xaden as being, like, bronze-skinned.
I just thought he was tan. I didn't realize he was, like, supposed to be mixed or something.
He's not white. That's
he's not
absolute
white.
guaranteed.
He's not white. And so that is the beef with a lot of people's, like, fan art. Is he's not supposed to be white. And why I pictured him as Buzz from Home Alone, I could not tell you. Even still to this day, I'll see these fan arts, and I'm like, that's not him.
I'll never read this book again.
I have no idea where this came from.
Oh my God.
But yes. Also, I think of Liam as Liam Payne.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the only
blonder.
Liam I know.
Yeah, but much blonder, yeah.
No, I thought of him as brown hair. Because as you can tell, I clearly threw every single appearance description out the window. Not a single one stuck except for Violet.
Okay, what about like her silver hair and stuff?
Yeah. And even then, I was like, she's blonde.
Okay, so another thing I want to talk about is, again with the fan art, Taryn's size bothers me so much because in the book it literally says that Violet comes up to knee or ankle or whatever it is.
Yeah,
that
I think it's like the ankle, yeah.
In fanfiction, he's so small. Or fanfiction, I'm sorry. In fan art.
I wonder if there is fanfiction out there.
There's gotta be, right?
Probably about General Sorngale and Commander Dane's dad. I don't know his name.
Or Xaden and Dane. One or the other.
What a concept.
Bro,
I can understand.
Huge, and she has such a hard time mounting him.
She can't even get up his leg.
Yeah, like he's the second biggest dragon out of all of them.
Yes, Melgrins is the biggest.
So he's like gigantic, and in the fan art they always make him so small, and it drives me insane. Okay, I just need to get that off my chest.
No, I think that's fair. I think a lot of the fan art wasn't paying attention. And like I get when you're drawing a dragon, you can't make it take up like the entire page or whatever. But like also, at least put Violet in perspective.
Put her in the foreground and put him in the background.
Yeah.
So, and Darna.
She's so small.
Yeah, she comes up like, I think they see like eye to eye pretty much.
Almost. Cute.
Yeah, she's so cute. We haven't talked about her at all.
I know.
At all, and that's a crime.
A crime.
So who would you say in this one is your favorite character?
This is hard because Violet's a very solid choice, but also I love how Taryn is sarcastic with her. And the whole, like, should I get the wing leader? Like, he's funny. He's honest with her for the most part. And he also, you know, stays true to where his dedication lies as well. But he bends himself for Violet, literally and metaphorically. Like, he didn't ever let her fall off him. Like, well, she fell off, but he always caught her. And he knows she can't mount him easily, so he helps her. He agreed to a harness, which what dragon, especially the second largest dragon ever, agrees to wearing a harness like a little dog, you know? Yeah. Especially one that hooks on, and Darna, she hooks on under him. And it's just so precious because he's one of those things where he's tough, but he's also kind of gentle giant at the same time. Yeah. So I do really enjoy him.
He's proud, but he's not boastful about it.
He's like, yeah, Violet embarrasses me sometimes in front of my friends, but he doesn't let her feel bad about it. Yeah. He expresses it in a joking way, and she gets the hint, but she's never made to feel bad. And I think he knows, like, she's already been made to feel bad enough about herself, and he chose her for a reason. So he wouldn't do that if he didn't know what he was getting himself into. I also like Xaden, but those are for reasons that don't matter. Okay. So I think Taryn would have to be my favorite.
I absolutely agree. He is one of my favorites as well. Just instantly pulled to him. Like, he's so funny. He's very protective of her. Literally anybody comes up, he's like, I will cook you alive if you step 1 centimeter closer to Violet.
And that goes for Xaden as well. And he's, you know, linked to Xaden's dragon, who I will not say her name.
Gale.
I just call her
that's
Gale.
That's the only one I know.
I imagine she's like this little silver-haired accountant lady in an office. Her name's Gale. She's got that little bob. Yeah. She loves muffins.
But that's the exact opposite of her.
Yes,
she's like
100%. Not even similar. Hence why I don't think I know what any of these people look like.
No, I really love him. He gives me like old man vibes.
Because he's old.
Like a cool dad vibe. I just really liked him. I loved his one-liners. They were always so good.
He has the most impeccable timing.
Yeah, it's amazing. My other one is very obviously and very clearly Liam. I really love him. I didn't understand his importance to the story the first time I read it through. I was just like, oh, he's a bodyguard. He's just there. But second time reading it through, and when he was making the little wooden figures, and then it didn't get to finish the Andarna.
No, I think he did finish.
No, it was left unfinished. The Andarna one. He finished the Terran one, but the Andarna one was unfinished.
But she did get it, though.
Yes.
That makes it so much harder.
So, Violet. I'm sorry, violence, if you will.
Violence, if you will.
When he called her violence, whew, my heart.
Giving her a nickname from the jump was like telltale sign. So he was most definitely the one who fell first.
Yeah. Especially because I'm convinced, because he was like, you don't know how long I've been wanting this or been wanting you. It's like he fell in love when Brandon told stories about Violet. I'm sure that Xaden heard.
Really? I know at the end he's like, liked you or whatever it was from the moment I saw you. But I didn't think it would extend beyond that.
I think he fell in love with her, at least the idea of her, from her brother's stories and stuff. And that's why he's like, I've loved you for longer than you think, type deal. Or whatever that line was. That's why he was so protective of her right out the gate, and he didn't want to be, but he was. Yeah, I really love Violet. I think she's a very wonderful main character. She's so strong in mind-wise. She gets stronger as her arc continues. She's just like the perfect balance. She's smart and resourceful, but not too much that it's like overpowering. She's funny and witty without coming across like super cocky. She's emotional and she knows her limitation, but she isn't afraid to push herself.
Yes.
You can tell that Rebecca spent a lot of time developing her and really worked out something that just perfectly makes sense and just fits so well in the story. And I just really appreciate that.
I agree. There's a lot of times where like main characters often end up being annoying or a pain in the butt to like have to read, or they're self-sabotaging. But I don't think Violet really did any of those things. She wanted to push herself, and she's like, I know where my ability ends, but I want to try and expand that to grow as a person and as well as grow in her physical ability. She wanted to know what she could handle, because when she's in battle, like, she's going to be pushed to the max times 10, because she can't just like go and stop and be like, oh, I need a break. When you're in battle, you're there for the long haul. She was really developed well, and I know like Rebecca drew a lot of inspiration for her from her own life and her son and that sort of thing. So there was a lot of more personal about Violet coming from the writer as well.
Yeah, and I think that with the narrative being the way that it is, it really helps smooth out those edges to Violet, where she isn't so straightforward, because you get to understand her internal process. Like, I loved every line with her saying, no, I'm not going to die today. Even though she is the weakest link out there, she is not the strongest component in this wing, but she always pushed herself and always outsmarted the people. Like, one example is her poisons. Normally, when you use poison in a story, it's very, like, very sneaky and, like, stuff like that. But Rebecca really goes into detail about understanding that Violet knows how to work the poisons to make sure that she knows exactly how much to give to somebody based off their weight, when to give it to them so that the way they're sick on the mat when they start battling. I really loved it.
And it's just her resourcefulness coming into play. Violet didn't want to kill anyone. So it was like she wanted to keep herself alive, but she didn't want to stay alive at the expense of someone else. Whereas everyone who, well, not everyone, but for the most part, everyone who was coming into this college was like, I need to survive, which means everyone else needs to die. And I think that's an example of one of the approaches, but how it may not always work out. Because like Jack ended up dying, and he had that mindset. And so played a role into her survival. And that, I think people saw her as a threat, but they also knew like, well, she's not going to kill me, so I'll kind of focus on someone else who maybe is going to try to kill me.
Yeah. Violet's humanity in this story is so important because it's very obvious that no one else really has any.
Yes.
And with her killing Jack the first time that she wields her lightning power, anybody else would be freaking out by the fact that, one, they killed their sworn enemy pretty much.
Yeah.
And they get one of the best, like one of the most strongest powers around.
Yeah.
Being able to command the sky is like insane. And that night she lost it because she had killed somebody. Not the fact that it was Jack, but just somebody. Mm-hmm. And I just like that humanity within in violence. I think it's really gonna be pushed and pinched in the next books. It's gonna change and shape her character so much. And I think she's gonna get a huge arc change in the next books as she starts to probably fight people that matter to her. I don't know how the rebellion's gonna work, but what if she has to turn on her wing and fight them? Because maybe she gets a rebellion tattoo.
Maybe. Are those things that like they got, or were the relics something that appeared?
I believe it's something that they got. And I know the relics, they aren't allowed to group into more than 3 rebellions because then Melgren can't predict what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So he loses that connection to be able to see them. So that's why they were never allowed to be like in a group of 3 or more. So I believe it's something that it definitely has like a magical sense to it. So I believe they gave them those.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. I can't remember.
Yeah. So just gonna take a second here to shout out the Patreon subscribers.
Hi, Patreons. Hey. Patrons? Whoever you are.
You know who you are.
Nick W, Bree P, Cody H, Patrick C, Emily P, Shelby K, Janet P, Tim M, Ashley A, and Lulu.
Thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast. It means the absolute world to me. And I enjoy doing this, so I'm glad, a couple people listening to it. It's pretty cool. If you guys want to be part of the Patreon shout out, head over to Patreon and subscribe today. I wanted to know your opinion. What made Fourth Wing so popular on TikTok and on the internet? And why does it have such a chokehold on people's throats?
Okay, what a great question. I'm in a lot of book groups on Facebook, so I see a lot of people talk about their book boyfriends, and Zayden's name comes up a lot. So I think that's part of it, is they really like him, and so they're like, oh, if you really like this type of book boyfriend trope, you might like this one. I think it being an easy fantasy to get into is one, because compared to say Lord of the Rings or whatever, where there's probably a lot of world building, those are really long books. Fourth Wing is a very manageable fantasy, because I think every time I brought you a book, I don't think it had more than 300 pages. Mm-hmm. And this book is
it's five
something, almost 700 pages. There's, well, maybe that's
a big jump.
It's 500 pages.
7,000 pages? Yeah, it's almost 500.
It's 498. And so for me, I was 500 pages, that is a lot of things. And I know myself, and I know that reading long books can be very intimidating. And so I almost told you I was going to not do this book. But then my sister was like, well, you've never read anything like that. And I'm curious to know. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Because the more I was reading reviews on Amazon when I went to order it, which they didn't have it, I think everyone was like, I'm not a fantasy girly, but I'm obsessed with this book, and this is such a good one if you're not used to fantasies and if you want to try it. And I was like, well, this isn't my usual genre, so I think I can give it a try. It seemed manageable. And then finding this book at Walmart randomly and it being the sprayed edge version, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a sign. So I think it being manageable is a big play into it. It has all of the elements of those really successful series like Hunger Games, Divergent, How to Train Your Dragon, those things. So it was one of those things that appeals to men or women, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And even though it's from the female character's point of view, it's not like a girly book. She's not sitting there thinking about her crush all day long, and that's just really not the focal point. The focal point is the politics of their country and government, and
not dying.
So there's a lot of action. It's just something different that we haven't had lately. I haven't read ACOTAR, so don't spoil that for me because it's on my list. But I see people compare them a lot, and from what I know about ACOTAR, they're not that related.
ACOTAR is so popular on Book Talk, and Xaden is like a mini-me of Rhysand. Is like, I won't give you any spoilers because you haven't read it. They could be related. Like, they have the same idea. They have shadow magic. They're same kind of temperament. Like, they're very similar. I, of course, haven't finished the entire series, so I don't know how Rhysand's character arc finishes out. But when I was reading this book, I'm like, oh, it's giving me, like, Rhys vibes. So I know a lot of people kind of cling to that as well.
What was that, like 2012, 2013, when Hunger Games specifically was at its most popular with those books and the movies coming out soon after. We had the dystopian era for books and movies, and then we kind of fell away from that. Twilight was kind of happening at the same time. Wondered how we were going to fit Twilight into this.
I know, I was just thinking that. It's gotta happen.
And like Twilight was different than those dystopian books. It had the politic aspect of it. And so I think Rebecca was able to look at those other fantasies and dystopians and see like what was successful about that, what worked, and then use it to kind of write her guide. And I don't think she's copying them by any means. Like there are similarities, but there's also only so many things you can do with
originality.
And
stuff.
And so I think she does those tropes in an original way and also elevates it for those who are older now. So like us who were there for the height of Hunger Games, because I think this most closely relates to Hunger Games for me, the perfect book for like the people who loved Hunger Games and are grown up now.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's why it's because they're like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of one of my like favorite childhood books. So like they kind of have that again in a new way, because people talk about all the time how they wish they could reread their favorites for the first time. And given this isn't the same exact thing, but it gives them that effect of like, oh wow, I loved this book and it felt so homey and nostalgic. In a way.
Nostalgic's a good word for it, yeah.
I think fantasy's ramping up again in a different way.
Yeah, like I'm glad that it was devoured by TikTok. Of course, I was mad because I couldn't get a sprayed edges one. Which I think is another drive into it because it has this like limited edition. It has a limited amount of prints with the sprayed edges with the dragons inside. I think that was a huge driving point as well because people want something that looks pretty, so
they wanted the exclusivity and kind of that like I was here first and it's exploding because the sprayed edges were only the first print first edition. They didn't know it was going to explode quite like this. I think they were hoping it would have success and traction, but I don't think they thought it was going to explode. But now this day and age, like with TikTok and Instagram reels and stuff, it makes bookstagrammers and book talkers, they have a lot more control over the market. Whereas like with the Hunger Games, that was widely successful and popular just based on word of mouth. For that to be that successful then, and then for Fourth Wing to blow up literally overnight in the same capacity, it's just crazy. And so like I think Rebecca really benefited from the internet being on her side for this one.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
We were looking everywhere.
Like the good thing is that you will eventually find them in used bookstores, Salvation Army and stuff.
Because there's people who just don't care and they might not know.
Oh, yeah.
They might not know.
So if you're looking for sprayed edges, give it time, give it a few months, maybe next year, year after, you will find a copy eventually. Because people will just throw them away. Like, toss them to the used store because they don't know.
They don't know or they don't care, or they're like, maybe they feel the hype has died down enough that they're not gonna get the hundreds of dollars for it.
I know I'm getting on sprayed edges of Iron Flame, though.
Me too. I ordered the Iron Flame from Barnes & Noble. I was like, is this going to be plain? Because they're not showing what the edges look like. They just are black. And I'm like, but I can't imagine her not putting something on Iron Flame. Because what would be the benefit of an all black edge?
Right.
Because I'm imagining if it's 5 books, there has to be like a bigger picture, maybe. Like they all connect, kind of.
I guess another question. Obviously in this world we have healers and then we have menders. And they kept saying how menders were exceptionally rare and far and in between. Why are they not held to a higher standard and protected more?
You would think, like, if these are the people that are literally saving everyone's lives day in and day out at a war college, I feel like we need to, like, protect them at all costs. Put them in bubble wrap. Don't send them out there Don't send these riders out there unprotected.
If they are sent out there, give them somebody like Mira who can make a ward to protect them.
Yeah.
Or something that can keep them safe, but just throwing them out all out willy-nilly to me was insane. I'm like, obviously there's probably, knowing Rebecca, more to that.
Yeah.
But that was just very interesting to me.
Well, and I mean, I guess Dane, supposedly he's such a important factor to the government with his signet power, and they're just sending him out there, and, well, as far as we know, keeping him in the dorms with the other riders, who they could have a reason to kill anyone they want for whatever reason. They're unprotected, technically. I guess no one really sees him as a threat. They just see him as, like, a menace. They're like, oh, there's that rule-following guy again. Like, he's annoying.
Loser.
He probably tells the teacher we have homework.
He would be like, Professor Carr, we had homework that was due today. Should I bring that up now?
Should I bring that up after everyone didn't do it? I don't know.
He absolutely
We had, like, a huge, like, ward break last night and everything that we all had to protect, but, like, we also had a homework due.
I finished my volcano project. Can I bring it up now?
I have the diorama. So, like, I'll present it.
Oh, God, I hate him. Okay, So, who would you say in this one is your favorite relationship?
I chose Violet and Humanity. Kind of what I was talking about before, was that she didn't want anyone to die, and she didn't want to be the one to kill anyone. It took a huge toll on her when it did happen. And she's already experienced so much loss as well, you know, with her dad and her brother. And so for her to think like her brother is dead and that someone out there killed him, for her to experience the loss and know what it's like to be on the receiving side of, she didn't want to be the person behind someone else's call home.
Yeah.
And whether that's her reasoning or not, like, is knowing what it feels like, I think that plays into it. And so that was a big thing for me, is just her humanity and how she wanted everyone to have their chance. And she didn't want to play God, really. I think there was enough of that happening in other aspects, and, like, being sent off to this college and that sort of thing. So, like, she didn't want to be one to play God at all, or gods, because they have their many gods.
Yeah, with Violet, she always talked about, you know, she took the non-lethal stab. She always did the potions.
Purpose.
Yeah, poisons. So that way she didn't have to kill anybody. And then when she did kill someone, it wasn't even her fault, but she bore it like it was. Yeah, I'm really excited to see where her relationship with Humanity and that part of her goes.
For sure. Xaden could see that she had the accuracy and the ability to kill anyone at any time, and she chose not to, and he mentions that to her a few times. So for her to know she could kill someone but choose not to, that's, like, a huge factor of her. And then the other thing is that she was always trying to do what was best for the people around her. She helped Ree get across the parapet by switching a shoe, and she learned sign language to talk to Justinia. She protected Andarna, knowing that, like, 3 of the strongest cadets were coming after her and did not care to kill her because they had been planning to all along. And they were like, this is an even better opportunity. And, you know, they clearly were putting themselves above the law because it was illegal to kill the dragons. Andarna was at risk of dying, and so she knew she couldn't do anything. Xaden knew he couldn't technically step in as a wing leader because that would affect the outcomes or whatever the rules of the codex were. And so for her to put herself, as much as she's trained and grown her strength, like, she was still not as strong as anyone else. That was a huge thing about her character and a little bit of Xaden's character, because he did take that step to kind of offer to protect Violet even though he knew he couldn't.
The thing with Xaden I really like is that he knew that Violet was stronger than everyone else thought. He, like, especially Dane, because Dane pushed and pushed and pushed for her to leave the quadrant, but Xaden supported her. He made the harness and the saddle that she rides in. He made the knives that she uses that fit her body perfectly. He pushed her and pushed her and pushed her. He gave her more time. He supported her every sense of the way, because at this point, you either graduate or you die, and he knows that, and he knows Violet won't be able to get out of it. So he's like, I'm gonna do whatever I can to help her, while everyone else just butters her up with all these compliments.
Writes her off.
Yeah. If you pick Dane, you're an idiot.
Who after reading this book?
There.
No.
Someone out there picked him.
I want to find out. No, like, I genuinely would love to find someone who is a Dane supporter. Because I'd love to know how and why. Because I just feel like after him betraying her many, many times, before she even knew she was betrayed, and then the time he wanted to betray her and she wouldn't let him when he wanted to touch her face with her knowing.
Yeah.
And her being like, get away from me, you crazy person.
And he's like, oh, when she was like, you didn't even ask. And he's like, I didn't ask. Like, oh.
I know. He was like, oh my gosh, how could I not ask? That's so wrong of me. You're right, Violet. I'm so sorry. And then come to find out, he's been touching her face all this time. And okay, not to like bash Violet at all, but like, I guess it's one of those things where his power is not something you see really, so you don't think of it. But if he was my best friend, I think I would know his power regardless of the context. So like, for her to be touched so many times and not once think like, hey, I wonder if Dane just read my memory.
I feel like, I guess, to be devil's advocate, a lot of the times when he does touch her, it is after something crazy
It's an
happens.
emotional moment.
It's an emotional moment. He uses his emotions like to rile her up, and then he touches her face. Her, it's a sense of compassion and a sense of just being friends with him. She doesn't know to second guess him.
Yeah, and he's like apologetic at the time.
Yeah.
I just realized though, when does he kiss her? Because for some reason I thought it was after she killed Jack, but I know that's not it. But I can't think of it. Was it after threshing and she comes back with two dinosaurs?
A bronchosaurus. Pterodactyl.
Oh my god. Oh man.
No. It's right after flushing, yeah.
So with him, he kisses her and he touches her face then, right? Just in general, that kiss felt so out of place to me. Which I think was kind of the point of being like, we don't like this kiss. Like, we don't want her with Dane.
And she realizes that, too.
Yeah.
She's like, there's nothing.
And then he thinks they're together. And she's like, sir, it was one kiss and I didn't even like it. So...
Okay, so my favorite relationship, I have my favorite relationship and then I have an honorable mention.
Mm-hmm.
So my honorable mention, I didn't notice this the first time, but the second read through, I really like Violet, Rhiannon, and Ridoc.
They're a good threesome for a friendship group. They have all the elements.
Yeah, they're always hugging each other. There is that sense of friendship there. I just really wish there was more. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was developed out enough to say that they were my favorite relationship because there's not enough there. So
maybe in the future.
Maybe they'll join the squad and become rebellions themselves. But I just really wish there was a little bit more. But I thought it was cute to have the three of them. Yeah. Every time Rhea and Violet hugged, Ridoc is always coming up from behind and hugging them.
He's like, hi! It's like you and me and your friend Steve.
Yeah, exactly. But my favorite is obviously Violet and Taryn.
That's a good one. That was like almost mine too. I just gotta decide, but I think Violet.
Yeah, it's like there's just so much emotion there. There's humor. There's that supportive. It was like a father and daughter relationship. He was a very protective father figure for her when she didn't have one. And then they have that sense of like friendship. And I was really worried when obviously this big scary dragon comes and he's the second biggest one. You're like, well, he's going to be a freaking jerk and mean to her. And he's not. Like, she's always hitting him like, hey, stop being a jerk. like she's always like saying something
using him in her head too, like telling him stuff. Because I mean, what I have a hard time understanding is that every single one of her thoughts he knows. Mm-hmm. That's what's like so crazy to me, is because you're never alone and you don't have any secrets anymore. And even if it's her dragon, but like obviously the dragons could tell other people. I think that would be a hard thing to get used to, is like never having your own thoughts anymore.
Yeah. Like, because she also shares her thoughts with Xaden, too. But she's able to close that door between them. But with her dragons, that's not there. She's just, they're just free-flowing. And he calls her out on them, too.
For sure.
He always, like, she'll be in mid-thought, and he'd be like, stop! I'm trying to sleep! or something. There's always something there that he's like, okay.
Hold, please, girly.
Can we talk about the fact that, of course, Gale and Taryn are freaking mated? Like, of course they are.
You know.
And it just happens to be Xaden's dragon too. Like, the coincidence of that is just crazy. But no, I was gonna say Sigale, and Taryn was another one that I really liked, but we didn't get enough Sigale. I think we need more Sigale.
She's definitely one of those types where she doesn't like anyone, and eventually she'll kind of open up or whatever. But I feel like she sometimes doesn't even like Xaden.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's just kind of like, ugh, you again? Like, oh man.
I don't think she likes anybody but
Taryn,
yeah.
She definitely is like blowing smoke at Violet all the time.
Yeah. She finally does, at the end of the book, she does get Sigale's approval. Of like, I approve you now. But it took a while.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
The whole book, basically.
I have a question for you. Let's say that you're bonded to a dragon.
Oh, boy.
Who's the dragon, and what signet would you get?
I don't know. Honestly, I would hope I had a dragon that was kind of like Taryn in a way. I don't know that I would necessarily get like the biggest dragon or something like that, but I would want one that had kind of the personality of him, because he is funny, he is sarcastic, and that's my type of humor. Not that that really matters in this dragon world, but like I appreciate that aspect, so I think we'd be able to get along easier, especially if you're bonded for life to them. But I also appreciate his compassion and empathy as well, and I feel like that relates to me a lot as well, because I think I'm extremely empathetic, and sometimes people don't deserve it, and that's my prerogative. So I think I would relate in that aspect, but I also really like that Andarna is sparkly.
True.
And I love all things that sparkle. I was Team Edward, if you couldn't tell.
Oh, gotcha.
No, but like, I think I would love to have a normal sized dragon that also sparkled and had kind of the personality of Taryn, because I think that is fun. Like, I'm sassy. I'd want a sassy dragon too, so we can be like sassy together and be like, oh, did you see what they were wearing today or whatever?
No, I like it.
And I think it would have an extremely ridiculous name that I couldn't pronounce, and I'd just give it my own nickname and be like, you're this now.
And then what signet would you want?
Oh, what signet? That is a tough one, because I like the idea of knowing other people's thoughts and stuff, but with Dane, you don't just get to know them. You have to find out via touching them. I like the idea of storm wielding or lightning wielding. I'd want something that you could use from a distance, but it's still like powerful. I think it'd be cool if there was a signet where, like, you kind of could pull multiple things. So you
could, like, siphon power.
Yeah, I could, like, take it from, you know, like, if I needed to move something, I can take some power from, like, Ree and her dragon, or if I needed to read someone's memory. But, like, maybe they had to be close by, so, like, my own power... Nothing when I'm alone? I don't know. That seems very dramatic. I don't know. That's a hard one because there's so many good options. I think I would want something, if I'm going to be in battle, that I can use from a distance, but that's also very powerful. So I guess that's why lightning is a good one, because you don't have to necessarily be right there, but you really have to learn how to like channel that so you are accurate. So
that's good.
I don't know.
I would obviously want Sigale because she's so ruthless, and she's just like, okay, let's hear it and go. We don't got time for this.
Yeah.
We're just here to go. But I also said I would take Toothless. Because he's so freaking cute, and he's literally just a cat in a dragon's body.
That's precious.
I would love to have Toothless. He's so cute. But if we're sticking to this book, I would go with Sigale. And my signet would be, I want to be able to touch something and know its history. Like,
ooh,
how it was made, who has touched it beforehand, what was written inside. So being able to just put my hand on this book and just know exactly what this book's about, and just, it's all in my head already, would be amazing.
Whoa. And so then you wouldn't have to spend the time reading. Yeah.
But then I would have to wear gloves, but then I would know how the gloves were made all the time. And then I would, like, touch this table and I would know how it was made. Like, that would be really cool. Just know the history of everything.
So, like, you had special, like, power-suppressing gloves.
Yeah.
So, like, you could, and then you could be that glove girl. That's, like, somewhere.
So let's talk about the ending of the book. They go to this outpost. It gets overrun by Venom, which... The Venom and Wyvern really interesting to me because we really don't get it until the end of the story. The lack of it was interesting until we didn't really get a ton of it, but it makes sense because obviously Violet doesn't know about it. So I'm so excited to learn about them more, and now that she's experienced them and fought them, I think they were very interesting. Having them be the main antagonists of the full story, I think, is going to be them. So I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. But yeah, end of the book, we got Liam's death, we got Brennan, we have Xaden's point of view.
Oh yeah, a little bit of Xaden's POV.
Yeah, which I think is going to lead with the second book, is going to be Violet and Xaden.
I think that would be interesting to have some of his point of view in addition, so we can better understand the rebellion. Because I don't think she'll fully understand it. And
yeah, I love POVs, so I'm excited. But I think that's an interesting way to put it in. But I don't know. I'm so used to having Violet though.
Yeah.
Xaden's going to feel like a power struggle trying to figure out which one to decide with. But can we talk about how Xaden used his shadows to lasso onto Sigel in the battle scene?
Oh my gosh.
I lost it. I was like, what?
I didn't even really pick up on that. Oh my gosh. I need to read this 3 more times. Yeah. I need to read this 3 more times.
Yeah, he was just running and then he did a lasso with his shadows and then threw himself onto Sigel.
That sounds kind of hot.
I know, right?
Okay, I would love to put this disclaimer in for everyone listening that book
2 hours in.
Well, now everything they've heard me say, they can be like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah. No, I never am super into these book guys or book boyfriends or whatever, because I'm just they're not real. It doesn't really matter. Even with Twilight. But for some reason, I love Xaden. I just love reading about all the cool things he does, and sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're not. It's fine. And I'm just Xaden. Well, and then thinking back to the very, very beginning, when she gets in there and she has her hurt knee, and Dane's like, oh my gosh, literally already, we just got here, and he pulls her into those shadows. Thinking back, I'm like, oh, the shadows. Xaden knew from the beginning. So he knew that she was hurt. And so if he really wanted to hurt her, he could have, because he had knowledge that only 2 other people did.
Yeah.
So anytime I hear about shadows, I'm like, he was there.
Yeah. Everywhere there's a shadow or a darkness, Xaden's there.
I assume he is.
But one mention I saw at the end of the book where Xaden makes just an offhand comment. Again, it's just very, it doesn't go into detail. It's just an offhand comment where he says, Andarna is huge now. I'm, interested to see, when she stopped time, did it propel her into the future where she's now a full-grown adult? Because it's only been, since she's been out, weeks, I think, if that.
Something like that.
Yeah, but it hasn't been a huge time jump. Okay, I have the line about Andarna. Violet wakes up and she's like, where are my dragons? And he says, don't panic, everything's fine. Andarna isn't quite the same, but she's her. She's huge now, but I'm not about to say that to Violet. Her gift is also gone, according to Taryn.
I'm not convinced Andarna's powers are gone. I have some theories about them.
I have a huge theory about Andarna, which we're going to get to when we get to what we think is going to happen next. I just really want the book right now. This very second.
I know.
Okay, do you want to play a game?
We can.
We can? Or we will?
Oh, we obviously will.
So I have a game here for you. So obviously, Fourth Wing's about dragons and their riders. So I have a list of dragons, and you are going to match them with your riders.
Okie dokie. Okay.
So let's start off easy. We have a black Morningstar tail, Taryn.
Obviously Violet.
Yep. Day, red dagger tail.
Is that Ree? No, she has a green one. Is that Dane?
It's no.
Liam. Oh.
Day.
Oh, yeah, Day.
Yeah.
Okay, Liam. That's fine. Liam, I'm sorry, Liam.
Liam, no. Tiny, green dagger tail.
Is that one Mira?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I thought it sounded kind of like Tarn.
Sigale, navy blue dagger tail.
That one is Xaden.
Kath, red sword tail.
That one's Dane.
That one's Dane, yeah. Interesting, I was doing this game, and they never mention what kind of tail that General Sorengale has. It just says that she's a brown one, but it doesn't say the tail name. So I don't know if that's important in any way. Anyways, Andarna, golden feather tail.
Violet.
Well, you already said Violet.
She has 2.
I'm gonna butcher these last names. Freyr, green dagger tail.
Is that one Ree?
Yep, that's Ree. Atrum, brown sword tail.
Is that Melgren? Riddick.
Bang, orange scorpion tail.
That gives Jack vibes, but is it Melvin? It sounds more powerful. Is it Jack?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Jack.
The last one is the black sword tail.
Okay, which would be Melgren.
Yeah. He's the strongest of all of them. Like, he's kind of like the elder of the dragons. Which makes sense, because he's the leader of the people. The whole thing. Yeah.
So, my question is, bouncing off these dragons, and like Melgren's having the oldest one, I know dragons live for a really long time, but like, eventually do they die of old age?
I mean, they gotta.
I feel like they have to eventually. So it's like, what if I guess they maybe wouldn't bond if they knew they were like getting to their old age and could possibly die from that rather than battle.
Because they choose when to bond.
Yeah, that's true.
But could you imagine having like a super grandpa dragon?
I know.
He's like, I'm back!
He's like, you puny human, you're too heavy, get off. Never mind, we're done here.
We're done here. So what are some things that you would have done differently, would have changed if you were writing this book? This is purely just your own opinions.
I don't have too many qualms with this book. I think the one part that I truly was caught off guard and didn't fully get with was when Xaden and the group, when they go off for their war games assignment, when they're on their way to that outpost and they stop and he meets up with the
Griffin Riders.
Oh, the Griffin Riders.
Sorry.
The Griffin Flyers. Yes, that's right. And there's that whole like betrayal scene and that situation. That to me really felt random and a little out of place. I wish we had a little more leading up to it. Like, I know she overheard their meeting way back when she was collecting berries or whatever it was in that tree. Mm-hmm. And then Xaden caught her after everyone left. I just felt like that was just all of a sudden like, oh, Xaden's betraying us and he's committing treason and everyone knew about it but me and even Taryn and Indarna and Liam after he's been my bodyguard for weeks and months or whatever. To me, I didn't fully understand it at the time. And when I first read it, I just felt like it came out of nowhere. So it felt a little out of place. So I don't know exactly how I would have made it better, but I wish it didn't feel like a pop-up almost.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I feel like it was lacking driving force. I feel bad, but because I do love this book. It felt like a very let's put this here because we need this turn of events to happen to get to the end of the book. And to have this quarrel and this separation between the two of them. So I definitely wish maybe Xaden was a little bit more suspicious or acting more not himself to give us so it wasn't so this out of the blue. We had a little bit of a lead up to it.
I know there were mentions of, oh, he seems a bit distant or that sort of thing, but there was a lot going on aside from his meetings with the Griffin Flyers and stuff. So that to just kind of pop up and suddenly be like, oh, well, he's a treason, he's committing treason. Yeah, I think we needed a little more suspicion and a little more to lead up to it. I just agree with what you say.
I agree with what you said. So, look at that.
Look at us go. Look at us. Who would have thought?
I honestly don't have a lot either. These were just my own personal things that I would have liked to see more in. I really wish we would have saw a little bit more of her and her friend group, or even just more people in the class. There'll be mentions of oh, blah 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 died from this wing. I sat next to him in blah 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 class. I'm like, well, we didn't see that. As a reader, we have no sympathy. We don't
care.
Yeah. So,
which is fine.
Yeah, I just wish there was a little bit more with just her friend group, because it was really lacking. And then, obviously, Liam. More Liam, please. I don't think I would have killed Liam. Felt like it was a little bit just a stab to pull the heartstring. I think it was to signify that real connection. Now we see the connection of a dragon dying and how it affected a human. That felt more than just well, now Liam is gone. But again, I think Liam's death is going to play a huge factor in the next book with Violet. He died in her arms and she couldn't do anything to stop it, which is one of my theories with Liam. Obviously, just always and forever more Liam.
I thought Imogen was going to die. I thought it was going to be one of those things where, now we're kind of following Violet's lead. Even though her and Imogen had their differences, she's now following Violet in her leadership even though she wasn't exactly leading, but at a certain point she kind of was making the calls. So I thought Imogen was going to kind of like step up and take one for Violet type of thing.
Yeah, same.
Because I knew we were going to have someone die. And then for a minute, I was like, maybe Violet dies and this carries on from like Cairn. But I knew that just didn't make sense. And I knew that we couldn't have this whole series without Xaden as well, because if one of them dies, then the other will die because of the dragons not being strong enough or whatever. But then I was like, well, she has 2 dragons, so if Xaden did die, but anyways, this is getting into the theories. So I thought it was going to be someone else. I didn't think it was going to be Liam. I agree that it was something to kind of show us what happens when a dragon dies and that sort of thing, and to make you feel an emotional connection to this book. Because if you didn't feel sad when Liam died, then I don't think this book was for you then. I don't think you connected with it the way Rebecca Yarros was hoping.
With Liam's death, it's not the fact that he died, but it's the way that he died.
Yeah.
The agony of it, the emotions that were flowing through everybody, the way that he was screaming out for Day, like all of that is what really pushed and propelled his death. And it's just, it's so sad.
I know.
All right, so as we've been kind of trickling out through this entire episode, we've been talking about theories and what we think is going to happen next. So we have Fourth Wing as the first book, we have Iron Flame as our second, and up to 5 that she's confirmed for the series. So what are some predictions that you have either in the next book or the series in total?
We're definitely going to get more with her mom. I think we're gonna talk to her mom more, be more involved in that relationship between Violet and her mom. There's just gonna be more general Sorrengail content because it's gonna have to start driving. Because I think overall, the main plot and conflict throughout this series is gonna be the politics of their government and how they've been running things. As we see in the end, Brennan is not dead, which means there's already been a lot of cover-up and a lot of lying in relation to just that specifically. And I think we're going to learn more or get some more glimpses of Violet's dad. I think Violet's eventually going to have to confront her mom and be like, what is going on? Because there's no way her mom doesn't know Brennan is alive, to me. I think her mom knows a lot, and I think her dad knew as well. We get that allegedly her dad died from a heart attack from the loss of Brennan, but I think her dad knew a lot more than he let on, because he was leaving her that book about Wyvern and Venom, and he left her that book with that note. He trained her as a scribe, so she knew all the history. And if she didn't know all of that history and the archives and stuff, she wouldn't know then when things weren't adding up. Because she'd be like, well, there's no record of A, B, and C, so how can X, Y, Z be happening? That sort of thing. And so I think her dad knew a lot more, and maybe even that Brennan was alive. I don't think Mira knows. I don't think she knows Brennan's alive, and I don't think she knows exactly what's been going on. And so I think what could happen is that it'll be Sorrengail v. Sorrengail, but Violet against her sister, because her sister is going to stand by and say, you're wrong. We have to protect, and if you aren't going to do it, then you're not my sister, and I don't know who you are. And she's like, I'm an only child thing, which is her fear this whole time, a sister versus sister thing, where they both think they're on the right side of this revolution. I don't know if Mira will die, or maybe Mira could end up dying at the very end of the series, and it's like once she learns that what Violet is saying is true, it'll be too late, and dying and telling Violet, don't let this history go unwritten type of thing. Because I think a lot of their history is unwritten because they're hiding it. Whether or not Violet and Xaden, quote unquote, get back together or whatever you want to call it, I think she will stick by him in the revolution, and that's where her brother's going to be. And I think she's going to believe her brother over anything else, because the Book of Brennan is what's gotten her through her cadet training and everything like that. One of the theories I had that I don't really have much basis for is she has 2 dragons, which is weird. I think it's a possibility that maybe Taryn dies, but she doesn't, because she has Andarna, and Andarna has more power than she lets on or anyone knows about, because I don't think anyone fully knows these dragons and what happens in this type of situation where they use their like their baby powers or whatever, and then have them grow up. Because I don't think there's really much study on that. I don't think anyone's really bonded with a young dragon.
She's like 2.
Yeah, which is still a baby if you're a dragon and you live for like 1,100 years. I think that's a possibility. But if Taryn dies, what happens to Gale and what happens to Xaden? And it's like, does Xaden's bond to Violet matter more than his bond to Gale? Yeah. I don't know.
I 100% agree that one of her dragons are going to die. I think it's Andarna because of his connection, because of Taryn's connection with Sigale, would just be a whole snowball effect. Like one would kill the other. Unless they're lying about it with that connection, about their bond.
Maybe they don't.
Like Xaden and Violet's bond. But they don't know enough about it to know.
Wait, how could they be lying about Xaden and Violet's bond? Like that, like one if one dies, the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like they can't be that far away, or whatever. The whole bond in general, they don't know anything about it. So, but no, I definitely agree that one of her dragons is going to die.
Not to give Dane any sort of credit.
Oh, I'm going to stop you right there. No, just kidding.
But he did mention something of the effect of like, we don't even know how long your dragons can be apart because Ryerson never leaves you alone, or whatever his little outburst was. Yeah. Which is true. Like, we don't know because I don't think they've ever been in this situation. Maybe that was on purpose, that Taryn didn't want to bond with anyone because if they die, then that affects him, which affects Gale, which affects Xaden or whatever. And maybe he loves Sigale more than his desire to bond or something. But also, just thought of this, what if Taryn was Brennan's dragon? Because does Brennan still have a dragon? Because if he died, I guess his dragon would carry on. But if he didn't actually die, but then it's like, does his dragon know? Well, his dragon would have to know that he's not really dead.
But if he connected with Taryn, he wouldn't he be able to Violet hear her brother's thought? They're connected that way? I don't know.
But this is why I didn't have time to flesh this out because I literally just thought of this.
No, you're good.
But and I guess that's something we'll learn more in Iron Flame. If her brother is in hiding, what would a dragon do in that situation? You know, like if a dragon had to go into hiding with their rider.
Let me paint a picture for you.
Okay.
So you have your dragon, right? And it's like huge.
Yeah.
You put a tiny tree in front of it.
Obviously.
And it hides behind the tree.
And we'll get like a little tent.
Yeah, like Appa in Avatar where he hides behind. It's like same exact feature.
Okay, I'm getting it now.
Yeah, I don't have a single clue, bro.
Could a dragon unbond? Like, I just think there's a lot to learn. But I'm like, if Brennan's alive, that means his dragon would have to be alive. And if everyone thought Brennan died, his dragon would then have to go back to where they go when they're unbonded and willing to bond, that sort of thing. Yeah. So the dragon wouldn't be able to stay with Brennan because, then it would raise suspicions that he's alive. So I'm just like trying to think like how that kind of works. That's something I never really considered until now. Yeah. Like, what happened to Brennan's dragon?
I don't remember them mentioning the dragon. Because every rider gets a different power. Even if they bond with the same dragon, the power is from the human. Right. So he said that Nolan, I think that's how you say his name. Nolan. Yeah, Nolan's signet was siphoning. Absorb the power from various people.
Oh my gosh, dragons. When I said that earlier, I didn't remember it being a real thing in this book. Yeah. How am I so stupid? Like, people listening are probably like, this is painful for me.
So he says, what can kill somebody with that kind of power? And he says, well, he was trying to revive somebody else, but there's no signet capable of resurrection. So that's why, he's alive, but he didn't actually die. And he burned out and died next to that rider. And then after class, Violet went up to the professor and was like, it was Brandon, wasn't it? And he says, yes, he died trying to save your brother, but Brandon was too far gone. Yeah, so it doesn't say anything about his dragon.
Oh, okay. Jack's glacial blue gaze doesn't stray from the illusion of the unbonded black dragon still being projected, which I'm guessing is Taryn. Because this is the first time we hear about the black dragon, and he's the only unbonded black dragon. So what signet ability would this guy gift his rider? Professor Kari closes his fist and the illusion disappears. There's no telling. Signets are the result of the unique chemistry between the rider and dragon, and usually say more about the rider than the dragon. The stronger the bond, the more powerful the dragon, the stronger the signet. Fine. What was his previous rider's? Jack asks. Nolan's signet was siphoning. So Nolan had Taryn, We don't know who Brennan had then.
Yeah.
But my question still stands, though. So, okay, theory debunked. Her dragon was Nolan's. But what would have happened to Brennan's dragon? Because if he died, the dragon goes back for future threshing. But if he's alive, the dragon stays with it. Because a dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without their dragon is dead. Where's this dragon?
Interesting.
I hope we learn more. Because I never really thought about that till just now.
Yeah, I don't know. One of my predictions, obviously we're going to understand what happened with Brennan during that time.
Yes.
What's going on with him, learning about him specifically. I think he's going to become a very important character. Being able to see the rebellion from the inside, understand that whole thing with the Venin and the Wyverns and stuff, which I'm super excited for. Some other predictions I have is, I think we're going to get some more POVs. I think that's going to be a way it's just going to go.
I think so. Because, I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, how you can write 5 books from...
one person.
Yeah. When you kind of only know so much.
Usually when you have a long series, it always starts with one person and it always ends up with multiple.
Which I think makes sense and honestly keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
Otherwise I think I'd be like, alright, we get it, Violet. Like,
yeah, shut up. I noticed when I was reading it that she's part of the Iron Squad Flame section, aka Iron Flame. So I'm thinking maybe they start converting people to the rebellion and that we'll get a whole new squad out of it and that she'll be pulling people in. Also, one prediction is that Liam won't be seeing his sister next year.
Well, that's a prediction.
But no, Liam's sister, I think, is going to play some sort of role. I think Violet, if she goes back to the school, she's either going to completely avoid her, or she's going to coddle her and take her under her wing and maybe protect her in some way.
I think Violet will feel the duty to protect Liam's sister as Liam protected her.
Yeah.
That's going to be her way of repaying the favor in his sacrifice, and also to ease her guilt, because I think she feels very guilty.
Oh yeah, the very first thing she asks is, "Where's my dragon?" And then, "Did Liam die?" Those were like the first things that she asked. So she feels extremely guilty about all of that. I also think Taryn is going to become the elder. I think he's going to become like the big bad boss of the dragons. Maybe not in this book, maybe a few books down. But Melgren's dragon, I think, is something that's going to happen. And he's going to get knocked down a peg. And Tyrion's going to come up. Some of my theories, though, the silver in Violet's hair is very interesting. I think it is an interesting thing to put in. I think it's more important than Rebecca leads us to believe in this first book. They mention over and over again that nature is always a balance. And she is so physically weak, but yet so strong-minded. And balance. I feel like this is just the start of her power. She's going to get infinitely better. But I have a theory that the Venin has something to do with her. Because when they had used her powers, they had mentioned that the flowers around the Venin started to pale in comparison. Like, started to dip into colorless. So I feel like, what if her mom got... Because she's also exceptionally weak. What if her mom did something while she was pregnant or was pregnated by a Venin?
Oh my gosh. I think maybe not impregnated by a Venin.
That's a stretch. But...
Could you imagine? They describe the Venin as like no eyes, like dead soul, like whatever. And it's like, oh yeah, you know what? Let's make a baby. No, so I think maybe her mom was poisoned.
Yeah.
And could be part of it or something. I can see what you mean. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Interesting idea. There's definitely more to how Violet is the way she is. And so that's a very good comparison. Also, for her to come back from the poison that they injected her with or whatever, however it worked, that especially like if it had supposedly went to her brain.
Because it says no matter what length she cuts her hair, it always fades to silver. So it's because it's coming from her brain and she's so smart that it sucks it out of her hair.
Her brain.
I said that Andarna's signet for Violet is going to have something to do with the earth. Okay. Because they said that, because the Venin, the whole thing is like pulling magic from the earth. And she is so strong to be able to control the sky, the next thing is earth. So one thing, this is kind of spoilery, but I saw something where Andarna... I know, it's crazy! So, like most reptiles, the first time that they molt or they shed, their colors just turn vibrant because they still have that, like, layer over them. And they talk about dragon scales all the time, about how they collect them and all that. So I think when our Andarna is going to have her first shed, she's going to change colors, and I think she's going to go purple.
Oh.
Because there's no purple dragons in the world. And it fits with, you know, the violet vibe. But
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I feel like she's going to go purple. And I might have saw a little spoiler about a dragon on one of the German covers. Because the first one has heron. And the second one on Iron Flame, it looks like a purple color. But it might have just been the reflection of the light. But it looked purple. So I have a feeling that Andarna is going to be purple. And
okay.
like a bird, like a penguin, they molt their feathers. So I think her feather tail is going to shift into something that we haven't seen before either. Not like a sword tail or morningstar tail. Maybe like a badminton or like a tennis racket. Just kidding.
Well, pickleball is having its moment right now, so.
No, it's definitely going to shift into something that they don't see a ton. Maybe an arrowhead. So that's one of my theories. Another theory is, if you read the very first page of the book, I think everyone dies. Because here it says, the following text has been faithfully transcribed from Naveen into a modern language by Janessa Neilwort, curator of the Scribe Quadrant for the college. All events are true, and the names have been preserved to honor the courage of those fallen. May their souls be commended to Malik. So I think that everyone dies at some point or another. Because that's Jessinia. That's Jessinia. That's Jessie. Take
a shot every time we mispronounce something.
That's her. I feel like they're all gonna die.
But I didn't put together this was Jessinia.
Yeah, it's another thing where you have to read the book twice to really pick up on those things. So I was reading some saying that perhaps Jack isn't dead because we didn't see a body.
I mean, I know we didn't see a body, but wasn't the whole point that he was like combusted into flames?
He fell down a cliff and a bunch of rocks landed on him. And she thought there's no way he can come back from that.
And she mentioned that, so...
Yeah, but obviously. What if a Venin got him and brought him? We don't know their power yet.
Because they siphon.
Yeah. So what if they found him? Because I guarantee no one went back for that body. No one. So what if they have the ability to resurrect because they think they're gods?
What if they take fallen riders and make them into Venin? Because we don't know how Venin are made. We just heard about them. Yeah. So maybe they take, say, like Jack's a perfect example of like someone who hates the other side enough that like they took him and were like, oh, we'll keep you alive, but you have to work for us now.
That's not a completely far-fetched idea that Jack could come back. Another one is that people say that because Andarna is still so young and doesn't know how to use her powers, that she is eventually going to use her power to maybe skip time or reverse time, and Violet's going to abuse it to bring Liam back. That's a far one for me, but I've heard that theory before. I would hate it, honestly.
I would too. I would hate to go back and then like change an outcome.
Yeah.
Especially if like she's gonna go back, like make sure Jack's dead.
There's one thing, very last one I have, is very interesting I picked up on, because I was very confused. Xaden had said, did Dane touch you and take your memory? And Violet says, I would know if he read my memories. Xaden said, no, Violence. Trust me, you wouldn't. Trust me, you wouldn't. It's like, huh? What does he know? Like, what's happened in his past? People were saying that he has the ability to read minds, which I don't believe. But I think he knows someone that can read minds.
Probably.
Like, in the rebellion that has been under wraps, I think they have somebody in their rebellion squadron that can read minds, and he has done that before. But, I don't know, that line really, like, stuck out to me, and I was like, I don't know, it's kind of weird.
One that, like, stuck out to me is a little before that when Xaden's like, all right, mount up, we're headed out of here, like, war games, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
And Dane's like, wait, you're not going with him. And she's like, why not? And he's like, no, he's gonna kill you. Like, you're gonna die. Like, you can't go with him. He's gonna kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, And so then they're fighting. She tells Dane, I know you think Xaden has ulterior motives, but he has had every opportunity and has never hurt me. Okay, so he's the one who had the opportunities and didn't hurt her. Who didn't have opportunities to hurt her but did, which is Dane.
Mm-hmm.
Think that was a little foreshadowing, but we didn't realize it. Oh, one last note, though. I thought that Rhiannon was going to be the one that tried to kill Violet, not Amber.
Same. Literally same. Okay. Because she was like, I saw one person in my room and I still can't believe it was her.
Yeah.
And I was like, her?
I was like, Rhi? Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then, like, they cut it off so you don't know, like, who she says or whatever until later. And then it's Amber. And I'm like, who gives a shit about Amber? Why are we surprised? I think Amber was in love with Dane. And she felt Violet was a threat because of that. And I'm like, girl, Violet doesn't want your dumbass Dane.
Yeah, no, I 100%. I was like, oh, please, if this is Rhi, I'm closing the book. Because I can't.
Do you trust Rhi?
That's a very loaded question.
Because I don't know if I can fully trust her. Like, I feel like we have been given all of the aspects to trust her. And, like, they went off and took Rhi to see her family and stuff. There's lots of opportunities, I guess, where Rhi could have been like, hey, Violet's doing something over here, and didn't. But I don't know why I, for some reason, don't fully trust her.
I think the issue is that she goes on and on about, like, you don't trust me, you don't tell me things. And now she has all of this on top of it that she can't tell her. It's a lack of trust between the two of them. Yeah. Like, they don't fully 100% trust each other. No. They support each other and want to help each other get through, but I don't think in this world you can ever trust someone 100%. Obviously, Xaden and Violet are the exception because they can read each other's thoughts.
They can talk to each other via their minds. Mm-hmm. But, like, even then, I don't think they fully trust each other, especially now.
Yeah, especially now. Yeah.
After Xaden did the whole treason and whatever with helping the Griffin Riders.
I want to trust Rhi, but I don't. I don't
think I can.
Yeah. It's unfortunately time for us to go. But before we do one last thing. We do the rating scale, but we do it a little bit different here on the book stop. We make up our own thing. So I would give Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros 2 bonded dragons out of 1 because my name is Violet and I'm a freaking legend. Yeah, no, I really like this book. I listened to this book the first time, and my heart was racing. When she got her dragons, when everything went down, during the fight, like, everything just kept me on my toes the entire time. I couldn't focus on anything else. I thought about this book non-stop for weeks after I finished it. And I haven't felt that way since I read All for the Games, okay? I made everyone read it. You are a prime example. I forced everyone to read it. I haven't felt this excited for a sequel in so long, but I am so ready for it, and I cannot wait to do another episode.
So I'm going to give Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros a 10,000 lightning strikes out of 10. Pretty much for the same reasons. I was obsessed with this book. I thought about it when I wasn't reading it. Like, I had to go to work, wasn't able to read. I was like, okay, but like, what are they doing right now? I need to know what's happening next. Then after finishing the book, which I did feel it was an addictive book to read and you didn't want to stop. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, I felt like I was kind of in a little bit of a reading slump because I was like, nothing compares. That was addictive. It had all of the elements of a book that I loved. And I also had not felt that way about a book in a very long time. For me to be obsessed with a book and like pre-ordering the next one and just like feeding into all the hype and recommending it to everyone that I could recommend it to. For me to feel that way, it definitely is a standout book. So props to Rebecca. Can't wait to see the next one and the rest of the series. And I'm also looking into some of her other books that aren't a part of the series as well. My new favorite book. Like, I don't think I've had a favorite book for a while, if ever. And I think this is my favorite book.
Yes, that is one of my favorite things, is helping people find their favorite books. So I'm really excited that you loved it.
Yay!
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to come back, maybe for Iron Flame.
Heck yeah! Let's go. We have to As soon as we're done reading it, just hop right in and start recording.
A live reading for the podcast. I mentioned it before. We'll just stay here and read it together.
Just silent. It's like this episode. I was flipping through pages and going, oh my god, are you at this part yet? Well, thank you so much. We don't have an episode scheduled for the rest of this year, I believe.
No.
But we'll be back next year for Iron Flame. Or maybe another fantasy book.
Yeah. Or maybe Iron Flame. We'll just have to pop it in.
Just real quick in the middle of December.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for turning the pages with us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support by leaving a review, sharing the episode, and following the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast. Join us on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hope you are too.